Namaste. We'll start. Namasundara tasmai halasya vasine chatushashti vidhalila yenakari bhuvasthade Shrimat Sundaranathasya devim shapharalochanam kalaye hridaye nityam kadamba vanavasini Bhutam smataf bhutataram tatoyat gangam payas shankara maudi sangat tatpatu mataf pranayaparadha padahataihi bhutatamam tato naha. After doing all the namaskarams to his gurus, Nilakanta Dikshita starts off with a comparison between who is a good kavi. He actually gives a description of who a good kavi is and who is a bad kavi. Or I think he must have faced a lot of people who did not write good poetry because he was also a minister in the Sabha. And that's why he gives a lot of importance, and especially in this first Sarga completely, he gives focuses on what qualifies a good poetry and what qualifies a bad poetry, what can be considered as a bad poetry. So he gives many examples like that, and we continue in that fashion till the end of the Sarga. We finished with the 31st shloka. Avarna shakti graham apavargam duhkaika rupa virachaya vidyaha vishranti hetoho kavitam jananam vedhaha sada anandamayim kim adhat. Avarna shakti graham apavargam duhkaika rupaha vidyaha virachaya. After creating all branches of learning, vidyaha virachaya, every branch of learning actually addresses how to remove dukkham, but it ends up being a very tedious process for us. And hence, right from understanding the words and meanings, how the words form, etc., every shastram becomes a very tedious process for us, even though they aim at giving sukham. Any darshana you take, the aim is for easier understanding or to get sukham, everlasting sukham, apunarbhava. And that sukham is what people are longing for in this world. But then the learning, the branches of learning that are present in the world become very tough for us, and they are duhkaika rupa. They are forms of distress because it is in the pursuit. It takes about, even language, if you look at Sanskritam language, it takes nearly 10 years to have an understanding of the basics of the language for you to take up a shloka and enjoy it, move on to the enjoyment state. Only when you have gone through that initial process of, tough negotiation with the language, only then can you derive a pleasure from that learning, any learning for that matter. You have to put in your 10,000 hours, they say. Right? So, varna shakti graham, apavargam. Varna shakti graham, right from the time that you start grasping the power of letters to apavargam, to liberation, moksha. Vidyaha duhkaika rupaha virachaya brahmana, the Brahma, Vedhaha. And then he also created a branch of learning called poetry, Vishranti hetoho, Jananam Vishranti hetoho. After being very tired of learning everything, you come to the poetry and start enjoying. Even today, many scholars, if you go and see, they will always have one text of either Raghuvamsham or Kumarasambhava, some poetry that is very dear to them. Even though they are teaching Shastra Patha every day, day in and day out, from morning to evening, they will still have a text that is very dear to them, which is Kavyam. It's because that kavyam is like a vishranti hetuhu, where you come and take rest and enjoy for some time. So vishranti hetuhu kavitam jananam sada anandamayim, because it always gives us ananda in some form or the other. Right? The next shloka, he starts off by saying, see, if the kavyam should be an ananda hetu, then it's because it is different from the Samanya Vidya Sthanam. And how is it different? See, there are people who work through the Shastras. They have studied so many things and they are capable of explaining Shastras, but they're not able to compose poetry, which gives pleasure to everyone. Why is it? Nilakanta Dikshita answers it in this shloka. Siddham padam siddhataraha tadarthaha sadhya padanam param anupurvi tanmatrasare kavitapade asmin kiyat vidhatra kritam uchchanicham. Everybody is not able to write a poetry, because before itself we saw that you need that special katakshapataha. Saraswatyaha katakshapataha is necessary there for anyone to write it. He also said that for someone to recognize a good poetry also, bhagyottaraha yesham atishaya bhagyam vartate tesham eva drikpathe sukavita patati. So it's not everybody who can understand a good poetry also. In another different manner he gives here, siddham padam. Padam siddham. Siddham, there are many meanings to the word siddham. You can take it as siddham is successful. Siddham also means that which is ready. Upasthitam. So padam upasthitam. Padam subantam tingantancha padam. So suptingantam padam, here all types of words are already present. Once you study kosha anusandhanena athava vyakaranadhyayanena padani siddhani bhavanti manasi. Natu srashtavyan. You don't need to create words in your mind. There are already words that are present. Right? Earlier we saw yanyeva shabdani vayam, the words that we use, and yaneva cha arthan vayamullikamaha. Those the same words a kavi places it in different ways. Vishesha vinyasa bhavyaihi jaganti vimohayanti. They attract the entire word. So in the same way, the padam is something that is siddham. It is already present. It is ready there for us if we want to take it and use it in the form of a poetry. Padam siddham. Yesterday when I was teaching a beginner class, it was a simple shloka, and I was teaching them how to do an anvaya. Right? So they looked at those words and they said, yes, we know all of these words, yatha, tatha, all those words are very familiar to them because they are doing a second level exam and they are familiar with most of the words that are there in the shloka. And I've also given the meaning of the word that they don't know. But the anvaya krama there, when you have clauses like yatha, tatha, where do you put the adjective? It's something you need an extra sense for you to understand what those padams are, how they connect with each other. So that's what he's going to say here. Siddham padam. Padam is already known. Tad arthaha siddhataraha. Siddhataraha atishayena upasthitam. Yada padam upasthitam vidyate sajjibhutam tada eva tasya arthopi tatra sajjibhutaha eva. You don't need to go and create a meaning for a particular word. You're not creating a language here. Words are already present in a particular meaning. And if you look at your Amarakosha or dictionaries, you're going to know the meaning of those words too. So, arthaha api siddhaha. You're looking at a new shloka, you know the word, some words, and unknown words, you immediately take up a dictionary and you understand the meaning of those particular words. But then where is the problem here? Param padanam anupurvi sadhya. So why I was talking about the class yesterday was, the students are asking me, how can we place it in such a manner that it forms a shloka? And it is beautiful also. It is not in prose order. It's not like a sentence that we write in an essay or for an exam. But it is in a shloka form and it is beautiful also. Immediately, as soon as a meter comes about or the words are placed in front or back, or you choose those words appropriate to the situation and place it in a shloka form, it immediately takes on a different color. that is something that is sadhya, that has to be affected, that has to be created by the poet, which is, what is that? Anupurvi. Padanam Anupurvi. Anupurvi ityukte successive order. Anupurvasya kramasya bhavaha. Anupurvam kramaha. So kramasya bhavaha vinyasa shaili. Purva muktam yat. Vinyasa shaili. Sa vinyasa shaili atra karya. And that only a poet is capable of creating. So padam siddham. Tad arthaha, padasya arthaha api siddhataraha. Siddhataraha, you do a comparison there, it is even more ready. The meaning is already ready. The moment the word is there, the meaning is already present. Next is param anupurvi, padanam anupurvi sadhya. Only, but the words, the successive order of those words, and which word you connect with another word. What are the words that have to be connected? Parasparam. That order, that decision, sadhya. Sadhya natu purva siddha. Karya. It has to be made. It has to be effected. Tanmatra sare kavita padesmin kiyad vidahatra kritam uccha nicham. Now, why does he go through so much of repetition with this? A poet has to create that order in words and all that, because it is only based on that people are ranking those poetries as, this is better, this is not so good. So how is it that using the same words, Kalidasa is able to write a poetry and that poetry is much better? It is graded number 1, whereas a poetry that I write today is probably graded 100 or the lowest there. How is it? It is only in that anupurvi, padanam anupurvi tatra sadhya, tanmatra sare, anupurvi matram atra saraha, saraha rasaha. So that anupurvi, or that successive order of meaningful words that are already present. Okay, so the successful order, that is the essence of poetry. The essence of poetry is in creating an order for meaningful words, which are present already either in the mind or in the book, wherever. Right? So tanmatra sare, tanmatra tat, you take it as sa anupurvi from the earlier padam. So sa anupurvi eva tanmatram. Usually when you use matra padam, the meaning of eva is substituted with matra in the samasta padam. So tanmatram, rupa matra, if you say rupaha, rupam eva, rupa matram, swarupam. So tanmatra sare kavita pade. So kavita padam, the position of poetry, which has this successive order as its essence, has been created by Vidhatra kiyat, based on this asmin kavita pade, in this position of poetry, in this poetry, different sthanams of poetry, Vidhatra Brahmana Uchchanicham Kritam. He has created a high and low standings for this poetry based on the successive order, based on that Anupurvi that is present in padas, in words. Okay, so kiyat kritam ityukte, how many such positions that Brahma has created. Brahma, in the sense, see, Brahma has created it. Alankarikas have understood that difference in poetry, and they have given so many varieties of poetry. The main divisions are Uttama, Madhyama, and Adhama Kavyam, which Kavya Prakasha follows. If you look at Sahitya Darpanam, he only takes it as Uttama and Madhyama Kavyam. He does not accept Chitra Kavyam at all. There are different types of Alankarikas who, Alankarikas have given different types of divisions for poetries of Uchcha Nicha. Uchcha Nicham is a word that is formed by Uchchaihicha, Nichaihicha, Uchcha Nicha. Okay. It is a word that has been said in the Gana, Mayura Ganam. So Unnata Avanata Sthanam Kavyeshu Evam Brahmana Kritam. Katham Anupurvim Adharikritya Tatra Ucham Idam Kavyam Uchaihi Vartateva Athava Idam Kavyam Nichaihi Vaktavyam Va Iti Vidhatra Tatra Nirnita. Okay. So, of course, there is Dhvani also, which plays a great part in deciding whether this poetry is an Uttama Kavya or an Adhama Kavya. Okay. So, Siddham Padam, Siddhataraha Tadarthaha, Sadhya Padanam Param Anupurvi, Tanmatrasare Kavita Pade Asmin, Kiyat Vidhatra Kritam Uchanicham. And the basis for a poetry being Uttama Kavyam or an Adhama Kavya depends on whether the poet has that particular pratibha or not. If the poet has that creative element in him, he is going to be able to create an Uttama Kavya. Otherwise, it is going to be an Adhama Kavya. Next one, Tanyeva Shastrani. He continues to say in the same manner how there is a difference between poetry and why there is a difference between poetry. Tanyeva Shastrani, Teyeva Shabdaha, Teyeva cha Arthaha, Guravaha Te Eva. The ekara there is gone because of sandhi. Yan Visheshah Kavita Pathesmin, Devya Giram Drik Parivartha Bhedaha. Tanyeva Shastrani, Teyeva Shabdaha. So, every person who wants to compose a poetry must have gone through a rigorous practice. Right? I told you about how when you want to learn a language, you go through the process of, you start with Shabdakosha, Dhatu Pathaha, and then you go with doing exams because there should be a retention power. And then you retain that language and its intricacies, and then you go on to Shastras. Ultimate goal is, I want to study Shastras. I want to understand the shlokas that I pray every day. You study Shastras, correct? But then after all that, people still are not able to compose a poetry, a poem. It's a totally different realm there. Satanyeva Shastrani, the same Shastras that everybody studies, there is no difference in the Shastras that a Kavi studies or a normal person studies. Everybody has a set of Shastras. I may study Tarka Sangraha with Nyaya Bodhini, another person might have studied Tarka Sangraha with Deepika. Something or the other, but Tarka Shastra, if you want to study, you have to start from Tarka Sangraha, which is the base text there. Some people, when you want to start Advaita, you will start with Tattva Bodha. I am trained in the process of studying Vedanta Sara in the beginning. Each one may have a different process, but then ultimately, if you are studying Advaita, everybody will go through Gita with the Shankara Bhashyam, Brahma Sutram with the Bhashyam. There is a set path for Shastra learning. So, Tanyeva Shastrani, Tani ityukte, scriptures are the same. It is the same scriptures. Prasiddhani Tanyeva Shastrani. Shastrani ityukte Shishyate Ebihi. Things are being, instruction is being given by these. That is called Shastra. Nidesha Granthaha ityartha. Te eva shabdaha. So what are the words that you study in those Shastras? They are the same. It is the koshe vidyamanaha eva sarvasadharanaha shabdaha. Sarvaihi api, it is easily accessible to everybody. The words within those Shastras, everybody knows those words. Te eva shabdaha, te eva cha arthaha. The import is also the same. Prasiddhaha vachakaha shabdaha api te eva shabda pratipadhyaha vishayaha arthaha api te eva prasiddhaha. There is nothing that you can change about it. Right? Maybe in certain context you can have a different meaning. That's all. Right? Next is the teacher. See, there can be a difference in the teacher who teaches. That is something that I have to accept. But te eva guravaha. Nilakanta Dikshita here, he says, the guru, the teacher is also the same. So you can take it as it's the same teacher who teaches for 3 different people. But then one turns out to be a great poet, another might turn out to be a Shastra expert, the other might turn out to be someone who teaches life principles and Advaita, or how to lead a life. Can be just a life guru, right? So in Bhavabhuti, when he says, Vitarati Guru Pragnye Yatha Tathaiva Jade, a teacher imparts the same knowledge, whatever is there in the text, he is going to impart that knowledge to both a Buddha, Prajnaha, an intelligent person, and a Jada, a dullard, a person who does not have that grasping power. So he gives an example there. He says, Manihi na punaha mridam chayaha. It's where sun's rays falls equally on a gem as well as a clod of earth, mud. Whereas it is the mani which reflects that sun's rays, the mud cannot reflect those sun's rays. It is the fault of the receiver. Of course, the teacher can also make a difference. If it is there in your bhagyam, you will end up with a teacher who can make a difference in your life. You have to accept that adrishtam there. Right? So here Nilakanta Dikshita says it is te eva cha guravaha. It is the same teachers who reveal the meanings of the scriptural content. Shastreshu vidyamananam shabdanam artham te guravaha ye pratipadayanti te samanya jananam api guravaha. Even for a kavi, it is the same guru. But how does he turn out to be a guru? Devyaha, that is given, that is justified in the second line, where he says, Giram Devyaha Drik Parivarta Bedaha Kavyapathe Asmin Iti Iyan Visheshaha. This is the difference. Iti Iyan Visheshaha. Iti, this is your Iyan Visheshaha. This is the sort of a difference that you see in Kavita Pathe, in the path of poetry. There is such a distinction lies in the fact that Saraswati's glance fell on him or not. Giram Devyaha, Giram Vacham Devyaha Devatayaha, Drik Parivarta Bedaha. Parivarta is actually moving to and fro. Parivartam, where Saraswati cannot be constantly looking at just one person, right? She has to give that kavita kataksham to everybody, to many people at least. So where does it fall? On which person does it fall? She keeps moving her drik, her eyes back and forth. Drik parivarte vedaha, drik parivartasya bhedaha, drishtikshepasya yaha vedaha vidyate. Tad Vedanusaram Janeshu Pratibha vidyate. So the moment Saraswati's glance falls on someone, immediately there is a difference in his creativity. And according to that, his composition also changes. Now, we say it is the star alignment should be correct in your horoscope for you to start feeling that urge to write a poetry. Now, on a personal experience, I say, sometimes there are times when you write, there is a flow of poetry in you and you start writing. Maybe at that point of time, Saraswati shows her, looks at me at that point of time. And then suddenly for few years, you can't even write even one single line. Then probably she is not looking at you at that point of time. So, Drik Parivarta Vedaha, her eyes are moving back and forth, and because of that Veda, there is an Iyan Visheshaha. Iyan Visheshaha Yat Parimanavan Loke Yaha Drishyate Tadrisha Visheshaha Bhedaha Vidyate. There is so much of distinction that you see in this world. Iyan Visheshaha in the Kavita Pathe. And what is the reason for that? The hetu is Drik Parivarta Bhedaha. Okay. So, Tanyeva Shastrani, Teyeva Shabdaha, scriptures are the same. The words that are within those scriptures, within those Shastras are the same. Teyeva cha Arthaha, their import, their meaning is also the same. And so are the teachers, Guravaha. Teyeva cha Guravaha, who reveal those meanings. Parantu asmin kavya pathe, kavita pathe, in this path of poetry, the distinction is Giram devyaha drik parivartaha vidyate va nava iti sayeva bhedaha tatra. Okay. Next one. Padani bhavyanyapi kavyaritim asthanadattani na shobhayante nasagra lagnena bhaved mukashrihi tatanka bimbena katham tarunyaha. Okay, now we know that there is a difference in a good poetry versus a bad poetry, and the cause for it is the way the pratibha in the creativity works in a poet, and that pratibha is caused by Saraswati's glances. That is fine, because the shastras are the same, what they study is the same, the gurus, the teachers, what they teach is also the same. There is no difference between their teaching, yet there is a difference in the students. So we've finished one section with that. Now, for a poetry, if the words are the same, but the words have to be used in a proper manner. If they are not used in an appropriate manner, now I know all those words and I have the capability of using those words in a sentence, yet if they are not used in a proper manner, in an appropriate manner, auchityam, that is where your concept of auchityam comes in. If it is not used in an appropriate manner, it does not beautify the poetry. So kavya ritim na shobhayante padani bhavyani api, bhavyani mangalani shubhani athava sundarani. There are many meanings you can take it for. Bhavyam also means future, that which is going to be created. Whereas that meaning will not fit in this context. See, you may have a kosha, you may have your dictionary will give you some 25 different meanings. But what is the meaning here? Contextually, that it takes an extra effort, right? That takes a intuition. It is not something that can spontaneously, it is not something that comes from reading the dictionary, right? So bhavyani padani shubhani api padani, even though all words are mangalam, it is very good, yet those words, if they are asthana dattani, asthane ayogye sthane yatra na sthapitavyam tatra yadi vayam sthapayamaha tarhi, there is an anauchityam in that usage of that word. So auchityam is a concept that is a concept that came out after dhvani. So dhvani concept came during the 9th century, and Anandavardhana, Abhinavagupta's student Kshemendra, brought out the concept of auchityam. Yes, dhvani is there and everything, but even if there is a great dhvani, it can be lost or it can be destroyed by just one word which is not placed in a proper way, or if that word can be replaced by another word. Okay? I gave the example of how dvayam gatam samprati shochaniyatam abhyarthanaya pinakapanehe or kapalinaha. If you use the word kapali there, then just to give a short recap of that incident, in Kumarasambhava, the shloka comes where Parvati is doing tapas, and then Shiva comes in the form of a brahmachari, and he starts saying that your attachment towards Shiva is not at all worthy. You are a daughter of a king, and how can you fall for a person who is in the forest? He is wearing elephant skin and everything. So he says two things have come to a very lamentable state, pitiable state, because they have asked to be with Shiva. The word he uses for Shiva there is kapalinaha. Kalidasa uses kapali. There is another reading for pinaki. If it is a pinaki, a person who has a pinaka, then he can win over the entire world with his bow, and it is actually a good fortune to want to be with such a person. So the word Pinaki there, even though there are many different words for Shiva, the word Pinaki is not appropriate there. Only if you say he is a Kapali, he himself is taking a begging bowl and go roaming around the world. Why are you asking to be his wife? Then it makes more sense there. And the rasam also comes out very beautifully. Right? So, Asthanagatam Padam. Pinaki is an excellent word for Shiva. Kapali is also an excellent word for Shiva. But the word Kapali makes more sense there. Right? So, Asthana Dattani. If the word Pinaki being Asthana Dattam, then Kavya Ritim na Shobhayante. It does not add beauty to the Kavya Riti, Kavyasya Paddhatim na Alankaroti. Asthana Dattam Padam Ayogye Sthane Dattam Padam Kavya Rachanayai. It does not give a beauty to it. It does not beautify the path of poetry if it is placed inappropriately. That is why you have a bigger section called Dosha Prakaranam in Kavya Prakasha or Sahitya Darpanam more than Alankara Prakaranam. Actually, Alankara Prakaranam and Dosha Prakaranam are almost the same. There are about 1,000 shlokas. He gives many different examples for it. One such, another example. 1 minute, I had noted it down somewhere. Shura Amaratvam Yanti Pashubhuta Ranadhvare. Shuraha, heroes. Amaratvam Yanti. You die in a battlefield, you attain Viraswarga. So if you are just like in Gita, if you win over in a battle, then you attain Rajyam, Aihika Sukham. If you die in a battlefield, you are going to get Amushmika Sukham, where you will attain the Viraswarga. So Amaratvam Yanti, they also attain immortality, which is Devatvam. Devatvam Yanti, Prapnuvanti, Pashubhutaha Rana Adhvare. Just as how they become like animals in the sacrifice of a battlefield. Now, we may think that it is a great upama. Unless, if Mammata had not pointed out to the inappropriateness in this, then we would not have understood why it is a bad example to give for a hero. Pashubhutaha Rana Adhvare. Adhvare, in a sacrifice, an animal is tied. It is helpless. It is not, it cannot fight for its life by taking up an arms. By comparing a hero who takes up a sword and fights for his life in the battlefield and thinks of it as a patriotism, then how can you compare a hero to an animal which is helpless in a sacrifice? So that is Asthane Dattam Padam. You can't use Pashu as an upamanam for a hero, a shuraha. Okay, so Bhavyani api padani adhvaram. Adhvara is a sacrifice. That is a yaga. Yaga is a very shubham padam. Bhavyameva padam tatra. Bhavyani api padani. Whereas in that context, in the context of describing a hero, it becomes a ayogyam padam. It's an inappropriate word there in that context. Padani bhavyani api, even though they are auspicious or beautiful words, although beautiful, asthana dattani, if they are placed in inappropriately, they do not beautify the poetry. Kavya ritim na shobhayante. Now he gives an example here. Arthantaranyasa, he justifies it actually. This is an Arthantaranyasa Alankara, where he justifies it by a Vishesha, a particular example. What is the example he gives here? Tarunyaha mukhashrihi katham bhavet. Nasagra lagnena tatanka bimbena tarunyaha mukhashrihi katham bhavet. A beautiful young woman, Taruni is a youth, a young woman. Her mukhashrihi, the beauty of her face, of a lady, how can there be a beauty to the face of a lady if you put an earring on the nose? So tatanka bindena, यत् ताटङ्कबिम्बं नासाग्र लग्नं भवति नासायाः अग्रे लग्नं agre nasa agre or you can take it as not as a bullock, not exactly like that, there is something called which you put it in the middle of the nose. Adukku badala if you think of it as a nose ring on the side, but you use an ear ring there, it is placed at an inappropriate place. That earring by itself is a very beautiful piece of ornament. Tatankam here, you have to take it as a really huge earring that cannot be placed on the nose. Okay, it is not the small beautiful type of earrings which can also double up as a nose ring, not that. So here he is talking about tatanka. Tatanka is in Sahasranama is tatanka yugali bhuta tapana udupa mandala. Ambalaka, for Devi there you have tapana Surya in one of the earrings, as one of the earrings, and Chandra, udupatihi is Chandra, udunam patihi, nakshatranam patihi saha, Chandraha anyasmin karne bhushanataya vartate, ekasmin karne tu Suryaha vartate, tapanaha, anyasmin karne udupaha vartate, both of them are called tatanka. Now she has a really nice big kundalam there. Imagine that kundalam on the nose. Nasagra lagnena, tatanka bimbena, because of an earring, tatanka bimbam. Bimbam is valayam. Tatanka is the karna bhushanam. Karna bhushanasya bimbena mandalena, nasagra lagnena, that which is attached, lagnena, asaktena, kutra nasa agre, in the at the tip of the nose. How can that add to the beauty of a lady? Then this is Visheshena Samanya Samarthanam. I'll explain the Alankara again. So, Padani Bhavyanyapi Kavyaritim Asthanadattani na Shobhayante. Now, this part is actually a Prakritam. He is not talking about a particular kavyam, but he is talking of general kavyam. So there are 4 technical terms in this alankara. Thought I'll take some time to explain this alankara here. Arthantaranyasa is uktir arthantaranyasaha syat samanya visheshayoho. So you take a samanyam and a vishesha. You either justify a samanya with a vishesha or you justify a vishesha with a samanya. The samanya can be prakritam or the vishesha can be prakritam. The justifying vastu can either be the prakritam or the aprakritam. So prakritam here is contextual, aprakritam is non-contextual, samanya is a general aspect, vishesha is a particular aspect. Now you can have a permutation combination there. Here in this particular case, samanyam is a general and contextual is kavita. He is not taking a particular kavyam in mind and saying naishadakarena evam kritam iti tathana uktam, kintu sadharanataya samanyataya kavyeshu padani santi eva parantu asthane yadi vidyante tarhi shobhaya na iti. So he is talking in general about poetry, but poetry is the context here. So prakrita samanyam, and that is being justified by an aprakrita vishesha. He is not talking in general about any ornament, but very specifically, he is talking of an earring. If it is attached as a nose ring, then it does not beautify. So that is a very specific ornament. So that is vishesha, and it is a non-contextual. Nilakanta Dikshita does not want to describe the nose ring or earring of anything, any lady here. So that is a non-contextual thing. So aprakritena visheshena samarthanat atra arthantaranyasaha. Okay. There is any doubt about this alankara also, you can ask at the end of the session. So padani bhavyanyapi kavyaritim Asthanadattani na shobhayante nasagralagnena bhaved mukashrihi tatanka bimbena katham tarunyaha. In the same manner, there is one more shloka. He says how this one padagata auchityam prati padagata anauchityam. If an inappropriately placed word can destroy the beauty of a poetry. Sahitya Vidyam Padam Ekameva Sarvanavadyam api Hanti Dustham Dantavalim Mauktika Damaramyam Damshtreva Vaktrat Bahir Ullasanti. Nilakanta Dikshita is a 16th century poet, and he is very famous for the work called Kalividampanam. It's a work that everybody has to see it. It's full of satire, and he shows that satire in many of his kavyam also. He'll be very seriously going, but that is not his style. He is more into that satire or humor, right? The example he takes is also a very laukika example. So Sahitya Vidyam Sarva Anavadyam api Sahitya Vidyam Ekam api Dustam Padam Sahitya Vidyam Hanti. So Hanti here does not mean kill directly. It is Lakshanaya. You take it as Shobham Apanodati. It removes the beauty of Sahitya Vidya. So Sahitya Vidya, poetry, which is Sarva Anavadyam. Sarveshu api Angeshu. In a poetry, you have many different parts in a poetry, like Padam, Artham, Guna, Riti. We saw those Alankaras. In another shloka also, Kwa Shabdaha, Kwa Arthaha, Kwa Cha Arthaha, Kwa Gunaha, Kwa Ritayaha. In that, I explained all the different parts of a poetry. So, Sarva Anavadya ityukte, Sahitya Vidya atra sarveshu angeshu api nindya rahita. It is blemishless. Nothing can be pointed out and said, this has to be removed. So, Sahityam is something that should be blemishless, faultless. So, Sarva Anavadyam Sahitya Vidyam Ekamapi Dustham Padam. Even one word which is Dustham, misplaced, or Dustham Dukkena Sthapitam Athava Dushtam Tishtati. You can say it as Dushtam Tishtati, Dushte Sthane Tishtati iti Dustham, Durgatam. That which has gone put in a very odd place, okay, in a very bad place. Like Pashubhutaha Adhvare, Rana Adhvare. When you talk of the battlefield as a sacrifice and Pashu, right? It's a Dustham Padam, Durgatam Padam. Dustham Padam Ekamapi. Even if it is one word that has been placed in that has been misplaced in the shloka, it can remove the beauty of it. Hanti. It destroys it. Just like how the Laukika example that he has here is, have a very beautiful face and Nalla Palvarisha. I mean, the Dantavali. Mauktika Dama Ramyam Dantavali. The row of teeth is also beautiful, Ramyam, like Mauktika Dama. Mauktika Mukta Phalanam Dama Rajjuhu Iva. Just as a string of pearls. Lovely set of teeth, okay, pearl-like set of teeth in a face. But then, if there is one or two teeth which is outside, which is coming out, right? Damshtra iva. Here, actually, the damshtra is like and the Tamil we call it tettipal. And the tettipal madri, it's coming outside of the face. Ilena, for some people, they have two rabbit teeth coming out, right? Vaktrat bahihi, outside of the mouth, it is shining. Ullasanti damshtra iva, like a large tooth that is shining outside of the face. It will destroy the beauty of the face. So that's why a lot of cosmetic surgeries go on here, right? Everybody has braces. Orthodontists mint money because of this. Maybe because of even poets like this who think that it destroys the beauty of the face. Dantavalim mukta mauktika dama ramyam dantavalim iva vaktrat bahihi ullasanti damshtra. So a large tooth, damshtra, vaktrat bahihi, outside of the tooth, ullasanti, shining outside of the tooth, just like how a big tooth which comes out of the mouth, and it destroys the beauty, hanti, destroys the beauty of mauktika dama ramyam dantavalim, the set of teeth which is very beautiful, like pearls, set of pearls. So Sahitya Vidyam Padamekaveva Sarvanavadyamapi Hanti Dustham Dantavalim Moktikadamaramyam Damshtra Iva Vaktradbahihi Ullasanti. This is straightforward Upama Alankara here. The next one is, there may be many Alankaras, yet if the soul of the poetry is gone, then that's it. See, Dustham, Padam, Padagatam, Auchityam, all of these are fine. You can talk of Auchityam. The Auchityam should be in such a manner that Vyangya should have more importance. The Pratiyamana suggested meaning should have more importance. There can be three types of suggested meaning. I said Vastudhvani, Alankaradhvani, and Rasadhvani. Anything is fine. If there is no dhvani at all, then it is, we have to, pity it, that poetry. People will write poetry also. Aham gacchami, saha api gacchati. You can form a shloka and it will sound like a shloka also. But if it does not have any other purport, other than any other meaning, other than what is said, then there is no point in that shloka. You might as well write it as a letter or a WhatsApp message in today's world. Anyonya samsarga vishesha ramya api alankritihi pratyuta shochaniya nirvyangyasare kavi sukti bandhe nishkranta jive vapushi iva datta. Very harsh words, harsh comparison in the shloka. So, Anyonya Samsarga Vishesha Ramya Api Alankritihi. Alankritihi, a decoration, an ornament. In the sense of poetry, you take it as Alankara, Shabda Alankaraha and Artha Alankaraha. So, Shleshadi Shabda Alankaraha, Alankritayaha, which is a Kavyam has both Shabda and Artha. Anything that beautifies the Shabdam is Shabda Alankara, like Shlesha, Yamaka, etc. Alliteration, rhyming words. All these are Alankaras for just the words. That's all. Artha Alankara. You can have Upama, Utpreksha. All these are also, now we saw that Upama Alankaram. The Vyangya there is, you take it as, you will have to strive to be a good poet and not be a very bad poet. That's all, right? So there also, there is a Vyangya there. Whereas if there is no Vyangyam, then there is no point. So Shabdalankaras and Arthalankaras are Upamadhya Arthalankarah, Alankritihi. Sa Alankritihi Anyonya Samsarga Vishesha Ramya Api. Anyonyam Padanam Anyonya Samsargena Paraspara Sambandha Visheshena Ramya Api. Alankaraha Katam Jayate Padanam Yojanena Eva Shabdalankaraha va Arthalankaraha va Tatra Jayate. Right? Anyonya Samsargam. Anyonya Samsargam here talks of the connection, mutual connection of words. Because of the mutual connection of words, an alankara can be very attractive. Ramya. Ramya api, even though it is attractive, even though it is beautiful, an alankara is very beautiful, yet if it adorns a poetry, kavi sukti bandhe, if it is present in a poet's composition, which is nirvyangya saram. Vyangyasya saraha vyangyasaraha nirgataha vyangyasaraha yasmat granthat bandhat yasmat bandhat vyangyasaraha eva nasti yasmat bandhat vyangyasaraha nirgataha bahirgataha adava yasmin kavye vyangyaha eva nasti dhvanihi eva nasti. So, nirvyangya sare kavi sukti bandhe, in a poet's composition that is without the essence of suggestion. Now, it is like an ornament on a corpse, and a body from which life has departed. Nishkranta jive vapushi iva. Vapushi alankritihi yatha datta. Datta alankritihi shochaniya. Natu prashamsaniya. It is not to be praised. Pratyuta shochaniya eva. I should have written na prashamsaniya in bracket here. Okay. So alankritihi, datta alankritihi na prashamsaniya pratyuta. In other words, it has to be shochaniya. You think of it as a very pitiable state for that poetry, and at the same time a beautiful alankaram. You have a nice kundalam or a hara. A hara, if it is placed on a person who is living, then it has a beauty. On a shava, on a corpse, you don't praise the ornament that is there on a corpse, right? Maybe mannequin is okay. You look at the mannequin and you say, in a shop, and then you want to wear it, probably. That is a doll. No, he doesn't say puttalika, right? A doll can be appreciated. Nobody appreciates the corpse here. That's why Nishkranta Jive Vapushi. Yasmin Vapushi Jivaha eva na vidyate. Yasmat Vapushaha. Yasmat Sharirat. Jivaha Nishkrantaha. From in a body from which the life has departed. An alankritihi that is placed, datta. An alankriti, an ornament which is placed on a body from which life has gone, the breath has gone. That is not prashamsaniya. It should not be praised pratyuta. It should actually be shochaniya, pitied. Anyonya samsarga vishesha ramya api alankritihi. Here also it is very clearly upama. Okay. So anyonya samsarga vishesha ramya api alankritihi pratyuta shochaniya nirvyangya sare kavisukti bandhe nishkranta jive vapushi iva datta. I'll stop with this. Are there any questions? Yes. Nandini Madhav. Then.
Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste.
It's more about the appropriate way of choosing words, right, for a particular kavya. In fact, even dhwani is very important, and the dhwani, to have the proper dhwani, the proper word has to be selected. That is one thing. Then the chandas also is very important. And the chandas again depends on the mood of the context, the plot, etc. Also, then if the chandas is according to that, it will be more beautiful.
Yes, definitely. Like in Megha Sandesha, Mandakranta adds to the beauty of Megha Sandesham instead of Shardula Vikriditam.
Yes.
See, Shardula Vikriditam is like a tiger's gate. Right? You can't have it for a Karuna Rasa.
Correct. So, once the Kavi is fixing the plot and the chandas, to choose the proper padam according to the Guru, Laghu and all, not to suit that particular rule of the chandas, that again is a tedious work actually. I mean, it has, because that like meaning may be okay, asti uttarasyam, but he cannot put uttarasyam asti. So, that proper fitting of that word, that is very, very, a lot of effort is. So
definitely.
Also,
see, even if it is fit, even if it fits the meter, sometimes, the word may not make sense there. Yes. The word may make sense. It may fit the meter. Like how I said, Kapalinaha and Pinakinaha, there is no problem with the meter. There is no problem with the meaning as such.
Yes.
For Shiva, it's the same word.
Yes.
Yet,
all these things he has to, that's what I'm saying. This, and so many things he has to take care of.
Definitely.
So
Avadhanavaneva kavihi. Dhvanyalokakara says, Avadhanavan kavihi. Vyangye. Yeah. He says, especially in Shringara, Karuna Rasam, he has to be extremely careful in trying to write a shloka there.
Yeah. That is one point. Then you said one anauchitya or asthana thing, no? Shuraha amaratvam yanti pashu bhutaha. Yeah, even before you explain the meaning of that, no, I felt that shuraha with some pashu something. I felt a sort of aversion. I didn't know the meaning completely. Only after you explained, I knew. No, that is very, very. How can a shura be compared to like a pashu type of? Yeah, that is
correct.
Very, yeah. Now in that Shulina, no, Pinaki and the other one you said Kapali.
Yeah.
If the situation was like the Tripura Asura Vadha and all, then the Shulina or Pinaki may be more appropriate than the this thing, Kapali.
In there is a shloka where he is describing the burning of Tripuram, and he uses the word Shambhavaha was Sharagnihi. Shambhavaha Sharagnihi, Shambhu's Sharagni. Sham, even though he destroys the world, it is actually for the Sham Karoti iti. It is a Mangalam for them. It is not a destruction. So Samhara is also for Mangalam, and that's why he uses the word Shambhu for Shiva there.
So the Shankaram has that force there, that meaning.
Yes.
And the last thing you said, that last one, no, that dead body ornaments are not suitable. I mean, that's not good. That one, Vapu, the last one, Vapu Shiva Dattanish. It is exactly the Kavyasya Atma Dhvanihi, no?
Dhvanihi, yes, correct.
Atma has gone, Jiva has gone, then it is just correct. Like a dead body only. Thank you, ma'am. No. Thank you.
Arun Kumar Mode, you have a question? Yeah.
Yes, madam. You talked about Dushtam Padam, right? Dushtam Padam. The dhatu is Stha dhatu, right?
Stha. Tishtati.
Now, Dushtam, what is the difference between Dushtam and Dushtitam Padam? How they select the pratyayas for these particular words, madam?
Oh, அது வந்து கொஞ்சம்
we can select words, but selecting pratyayas, what pratyaya should be added to which word, it is so complicated. In 189,
so see, dushtam, the etymology of dushta is different. Dushtam is dushyate anena iti. Dushyati iti. Tatra dush is the root word, and then kta pratyaya comes there. So dushtam. So dushyati is faulty. That's all. Dusthitam, dustham is actually dukkena, the dushtam sthitam.
In dushtam padam, which pratyaya is used?
Pratyayam வந்து என்ன எனக்கு தெரியல, கன்யா இருக்கலாம். Maybe it is a sthitam, tishtati iti sthaha, no? So I think some other taddita pratyaya should be there. Ama. Some Ghanya, I think there is Ghanya Pratyaya.
Ghanya Pratyaya.
Ama. Tishtati asminna iti sthaha Ghanya. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I think that's all. Thank you. We'll meet next week. Namaste.